हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, कैसे हैं आप लोग। आज हमको डेफिशिएंट डिमांड के बारे में स्टडी करना है। हम लोग पढ़ेंगे डेफिशिएंट डिमांड क्या है। कल मैंने पढ़ाया था एक्सेस डिमांड क्या है। तो आप सभी लोग डेफिशिएंट डिमांड के बारे में पढ़े। डेफिशिएंट डिमांड जो है यह यूनिट थर्ड का जो थर्ड पार्ट है, एक्सेस डिमांड डेफिशिएंट डिमांड का दूसरा पार्ट है। Deficient demand is a situation where the aggregate demand for goods and services in an economy is less than the aggregate supply at full employment. This results in underemployment where the economy's resources are only partially utilized. Students, you can see that uh, deficient demand results in underemployment. Okay, means if there is deficient demand, there will be underemployment also. The economy resources are not partially utilized, not totally utilized, partially utilized. Understood also, students? Deficient demand में जो अंडर एम्प्लॉयमेंट होता है और रिसोर्सेज फुली यूटिलाइज नहीं होते, पार्शली यूटिलाइज होते हैं। Deficient demand can also lead to a deflationary gap. Means में एक डिफ्लेशन होगा, वो गैप बनेगा, उसको डिफ्लेशनरी गैप कहते हैं। स्टूडेंट्स, आप इसको समझ सकते हैं डायग्राम के थ्रू। मैंने डायग्राम बताया था अभी आप लोग को, आप समझ सकते हैं। जैसे मैं एक छोटा सा डायग्राम यहाँ बनाता हूँ, देख सकते हो। इसे मान लो कि ये जो है आपका, ये एक्स एक्सिस है, ये एक्स एक्सिस है, और ये वाई एक्सिस है। ठीक है, ये वाई एक्सिस है। अब इसमें क्या होता है कि हम जो है एक एक लाइन खींचते हैं। ये जो लाइन है आपका, देख सकते हो, ये हो गया आपका एस। इसको वाई भी बोलते हैं कभी कहीं। अब जो है इसमें एक एडी खींचते हैं, एडी। मान लो कि ये जो है एडी खींचेंगे। इस पॉइंट को एक रेड कलर कर लेते हैं, इंक। ये इंक लेते हैं, देखो। एक जो है ये एडी हो गया, ये हो गया आपका, दिस इज द एडी, एडी। एंड दिस इज द पॉइंटिंग ऑन इक्विलिब्रियम पॉइंट हियर, इक्विलिब्रियम पॉइंट, इक्विलिब्रियम पॉइंट। दिस इज क्यू, दिस इज ओ, दिस इज क्यू। This is called you can see E point. E point. This is the equilibrium point. But if there will be deficient demand, resource will not be utilized. Then the drawing, if you see that, we can draw this way, and it will come to lower point, this point. Okay, this will come to lower point. This point, this point, this point, this point, this point. This is the lower point. This is AD, AD dash. This is the lower point. So the you can see that demand reduced. This is the Q1, Q1 point, Q1 point. So this comes to the equilibrium point, come to here. This is the EU dash. So this gap is called the deflationary gap. This gap is called the deflationary gap. You can see, students, the gap here, the gap here. This gap is called deflationary gap. This gap. See here, this gap is called this deflationary gap. Deflationary gap. Okay. Now you can see here uh, that deficient demand is a situation where the aggregate demand for goods and services in economy is less than the aggregate supply at full employment. Deficient demand results in underemployment also when resources are not fully utilized but partially utilized. Deficient demand can also lead to a deflationary gap. It is very important for you also. Now the questions are there. What are the reasons of or causes of deficient demand? Why deficient demand occurred? The answer is, you can see here, answer has been written already on the screen also, but we will discuss on the answer. The main reason of deficient demand are apparently the decrease in the four components. Four components. First, decrease in the household consumption. The second, decrease in the private investment. Third one, decrease in public or government investment. Next, decrease in export demand. And next, decrease in money supply. All these are cause of deficient demand. Students, this is a very important topic. What is deficient demand? Now, why? If the people demanded very less, then all the stock will remain as it is. The stock will not be sold, so there will be no profit, and there will be no equilibrium. So this is the cause of uh, deficient demand. First, decrease in household consumption. Second, decrease in private investment. Third, decrease in public government expenditure. Fourth, decrease in the export demand. Fifth, decrease in the money supply. So these are the decreasing point. Now, this is not an important point earlier. This is not for examination. Only this is for concept. Okay, but you should listen and read this properly. Take a screenshot for this. It. Now, next question is, what are the impacts of or effect of demand on price and employment? Very important question is there. You need to know that effect on price level. If there will be deficient demand, mean demand will be less. People are not demanding. This causes general price level fall. The price level will fall because people are not demanding. So it rises when the aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply at full employment level. There is a deflation. And you know that there are two points in deflation. One is depression, one is recession. Now this is deflation. And there will be a gap which is called the deflationary gap. This is called deflationary gap. Now the second point is if the people will not demand, then there will be more inventory stock. So there will be lack of employment. People will not be employed because the company will remove their employee because their goods are not being sold. So students, please be careful that if there will be difference in demand, then people will demand less. Okay, people will demand less, and there will be deflationary gap. Understood, all of you, students? Are you understanding my word? Students, you are understanding? Now, the third point, effect on output. Suppose people are not demanding, then output will also be reduced. Okay, level of output will be low level of output will be there. So this is the three effect. Price level will go down. Second effect, employment will be, there is more unemployment due to because inventory will be more, and companies stocks are not going to be sold in the market. So these are the problem of effect of deficit demand. Now the next point is, explain the role of government expenditure and open market operation in reducing excess demand. Excess demand. You know, students here, it has been excess demand, AD, aggregate demand, excess demand. Students, role of government expenditure. You do know that excess demand means demand is more. When demand is more, it means that money supply in the market is more. If the money supply in the market is more, then government has to increase the taxes so that money supply will be reduced. Okay. Similarly, if this is a reverse question of deficient demand, and this is the question of excess demand. So you can see that government has to invest huge amount on public works like roads, buildings, irrigation works. If government will huge amount of money will be investing, then there will be inflation. And during inflation, government should curtail, reduce its expenditure. So there will be excess demand, and now the if for reducing inflation, the government had to reduce the expenditure on public works like roads, buildings, irrigation works, etc. By reducing this money income, people the demand for goods will be reduced. This is the government expenditure. Now for open market operation. Do you know that open market operation, government sells or purchase the security, buy the security, government security, or sell the government security, sell or buy. In the situation of excess demand, the leading to inflation means excess demand means inflation has increased. So in this situation, central bank sells the securities in the and bonds to the commercial bank. Why it sells? It sells these securities because because commercial banks are in a position to take money and send it to the government. Then there will be less money supply and demand will automatically decrease. So the power of commercial bank in giving loans decreases, which will control excess demand. So this will be two things I have told here. First, in case of excess demand, government will curtail the expenditure, increase the tax. In open market operation, government will sell the security. Sell the security. This will reduce the money supply in the market, and then the excess demand will be controlled. Now, next question. Differentiate between full employment and underemployment equilibrium. Students, you know that earlier we have studied in the diagram that the full employment equilibrium is the full employment equilibrium means AD equal to AS. You can see in the diagram here. This is the suppose this is the AD This is AD. This point is called the full employment equilibrium. All resources in the economy are fully utilized. It means that all resources are fully utilized at the E point. Okay. Now, if there is underemployment, all resources are fully utilized. All resources are fully utilized. Underemployment equilibrium refers to a situation where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal at level where all resources are not fully utilized. Students, you can see that here all resources are not fully utilized. That is called the underemployment. Means it is equal, but resources are not utilized. You can see in the diagram here also. I am making the diagram. This is the diagram. Equilibrium is here, but point is here. So this is the gap. This is called underemployment. Next slide I will show the diagram also. So you will see here the whole money supply, aggregate supply and aggregate demand. If they are equal, but resources are not fully utilized, this is called underemployment situation. Understood, students? Okay, thank you. Next question is that what is margin mean by margin requirement? You know, margin requirement is the very important function of banks. How does central bank use this to measure to control deflationary condition? If there is deflation, means demand is less. In such a situation, the commercial banks try to reduce margin requirement. You can see here, businesses and traders get credit from the commercial bank against security of their goods. This security is called margin. Banks never gives credit equal to the full value of security. It always pay less value than the security. Suppose you are going to take a loan, you have to pay some part of money, suppose fixed deposit or the any deposit, and banks will pay less value of that deposit. That is called margin. So the difference between the value of security and the value of loan is called margin requirement. Okay, students, you understand the topic? In a situation of deficient demand, you can see here, this is the deflation condition, means demand is less. In such a situation, the central bank decrease the margin requirements so that money supply will be more. And if the money supply will be more, then there will be more and more demand. And again, deflation will be come to the equilibrium point. This is called the use of margin requirement to control deflationary conditions. Students, you are understanding? Okay, thank you. Now, next point is that you can see here. Explain the concept of underemployment equilibrium with the help of diagram. So the so so on the same diagram, the additional investment expenditure required to reach full employment equilibrium. Now the same question is there in the next question. Explain the meaning of underemployment equilibrium. Explain two measures by which full employment equilibrium can be reached. Very important question is there. Many times it has come in the examination. See the answer. Underemployment equilibrium refers to a situation when equilibrium is attained, that is, aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply below full employment level. When resources are not fully employed. So this is the called the underemployment equilibrium. Means resources are not fully employed. So this is a very important question. You can see in the diagram also. Next, see in the diagram. See, first of all, this you can see. I am changing the color. I am changing the color here. See, this is the AD. This is AS 45 line. You can see the demand reduced from equilibrium level. This is the equilibrium level. This is showing full employment equilibrium. And demand reduced. Then the new equilibrium point is decided. Here, this is the new equilibrium point. So the actual is E. Now it is reduced. So come to E1. So this point is called underemployment equilibrium because resources are not fully employed at this point. Okay. Students understood? Very good. Very good. Very good. आप समझ पा रहे हैं इसको अच्छा समझिए इसको ये कहते हैं कि इसमें क्या होता है कि हमारा रिसोर्स फुली इम्प्लॉयड नहीं होता है क्योंकि जो स्टॉक जो होता है सेम टू सेम बना रहता है इन्वेंट्री सरप्लस होते हैं दिस कंडीशन इज कॉल्ड अंडर एम्प्लॉयमेंट नाउ नेक्स्ट इज दैट इन द above diagram full employment level of national income is attained at point E, but due to deficient demand, aggregate demand shift downward from AD to AD AD1, AD1, this is the wrong point here given. Then how nucleum is attained at a point E1, which is below the employment level. So you can see in this diagram, this is the E1 point, AD0, AD1. So you can see AD0 AS is showing the full employment. Now you can see the employment reduce. So it come to the E1. So here the employment go down. Okay. So this is the underemployment equilibrium, which is this line tells. Now the aggregate demand shifts downward because of the following reasons. Why down the aggregate demand reduced? Because consumption decreases, because private investment decreases, because government is doing expenditure less, because export is not done properly, because disposable income decreases, money supply decreases. So these are the reasons of underemployment or downward shift of aggregate demand. How to correct it? In order to correct the achieve the full employment equilibrium, deficiency of demand must be corrected. Means demand must be corrected through additional investment expenditure. How to correct this? You can see here, for keeping upside, we must do more and more investment so that the demand will, the money supply will increase, so demand will increase also. So this will help to the increasing the demand. So thus AB amount of additional investment is required to reach the level of full employment. So it will increase the full employment level. So understood, students? This is very important part. Now next question is, so deflationary gap on a diagram. Can this gap exist at equilibrium level? Yes. Yes, deflationary gap can exist at equilibrium level of income. In the below figure, you can see that equilibrium is attained at equilibrium point when deflationary gap is EV. Here that you can see, this is the equilibrium point. This is the deflationary demand, means underemployment equilibrium. So the demand decreases, and this point, this gap is called a deflationary gap. You can see here given. Students are understanding? Very good diagram is there. Now the next concept is what is the concept of inflationary gap? Explain the role of repo rate in reducing this gap. Inflationary gap is the gap showing the excess of current aggregate demand over aggregate supply at the level of full employment. It is called inflationary because it leads to inflation. Okay. It can be explained with the help of following diagram. You can see the diagram also. See here. This is the actual equilibrium, full employment equilibrium here. Full employment equilibrium. Here this is full employment equilibrium. And suddenly the demand increases. This is the increased demand. So this gap is called, these both are parallel. This gap is called inflationary gap. Showing that in the above diagram, inflationary gap is AB. AB is inflationary gap. You can see here. AB is inflationary gap because at full employment, Y aggregate demand BY is greater than aggregate supply. Here you can see that this point is the full employment equilibrium. Now this increase to this place. So this is the greater. So this point showing the over employment, and this is the gap. This is the full inflationary gap. Understood, all of you? Now, next is what is meant by repo rate? How does central bank use this to measure the control inflationary condition in the country? Rate is the rate at which commercial banks borrow money from the central bank. Students, are you understanding? Here, see the rate at which commercial banks borrow money from the central bank for short period by selling the financial securities. This is called the repo rate. These securities are pledged at security for the loans. All the repurchase rate at the as this involves the commercial bank selling securities to RBI. Okay, so you can see students that money with the agreement to repurchase them at a later date and at a predetermined price. This is called the repo rate. One determined price, the RBI borrowed money, that is called reverse repo rate. When commercial banks borrow money, this is called the repo rate. It is repo rate is for short term only. Now next is so keeping security at the borrowing is at repo rate. Okay, central bank raises repo rate at this that discourages commercial banks in borrowing from central bank as it will increase the cost of borrowing of commercial bank. Central bank raise repo rate and it discourages the commercial banks in borrowing from central bank. Repo rate is discouraged. Now it forces the commercial banks to increase their lending rates, which discourage the borrowers to taking loans. Students, when there is a inflation in the market, the commercial banks raise the lending rate. So nobody will take loan. So this will decrease the money supply. If there is a deflationary in the market, say commercial bank reduce the loan so that money supply will increase. So this is explaining the same thing. Again, high rate of interest induce the household to increase their savings. Now, if the rate of interest increases, people will go for saving. Okay. If rate of interest is lower, then people will withdraw money and go for purchasing more and more things. So if they purchase more, then demand will increase. Corrected. If they save more, then demand will decrease. This is due to uh, rate of interest is increasing or decreasing. So to control excess demand, so the RBI always increase the rate of interest or repo rate so that people will save the money and demand will reduce. This is the point. Now, thank you. This point is thank you.